Welcome back, Stock Explorers. You're always looking for those companies that are really pushing the boundaries, and today we're diving deep into SoundHound AI.
They're making serious waves in the world of voice AI.
And we're going to break down what makes them tick.
From their tech to their rifles and what it all means for you as investors.
I think it's fascinating that SoundHound is not just riding the AI wave. They're paddling hard and charting their own course.
They've got almost 2 decades of experience.
With conversational AI.
Which gives them a real depth of expertise.
Right, and the recent moves show they're playing for keeps. But
yeah.
Before we get into all that, let's address the elephant in the room.
Okay.
Nvidia, the chip-making giant, recently backed out of their investment in SoundHound. What does this mean for the company?
Well, it definitely raised some eyebrows. I mean, Nvidia is known for making smart bets in the AI space, so their exit has some folks scratching their heads.
Yeah.
One factor could be profitability.
Okay.
You know, SoundHound's growth has been impressive, but they haven't quite cracked the code of consistent profits. And that can make even the biggest players a bit cautious.
Okay, so profitability is a watch point.
Yeah.
But remember, SoundHound is operating in a field that's changing at lightning speed. They're pouring resources into R&D, constantly pushing the limits of what their voice AI can do. Could that actually be a competitive advantage for them?
Absolutely. They're not just taking pre-made language models off the shelf. They're building their own called Polaris.
Okay.
This gives them more control, potentially lower costs down the line, and a serious leg up in the long run as AI keeps evolving.
So they're playing the long game. It seems like those investments are already paying off in some areas.
Yeah.
Remember that research they did on European drivers last year? Nearly 80% said they'd likely use voice-activated generative AI in their cars, and SoundHound was the first to actually launch an in-car assistant with those capabilities.
Exactly. They're not just talking about the future.
Yeah.
They're building it. Their tech is already being used by automakers around the world handling millions of queries.
Wow.
And it's not just about bells and whistles. It's about making driving safer and more intuitive.
So we got NVIDIA's exit, a focus on R&D, and an early lead in in-car generative AI. Let's dig a bit deeper into that technology because it seems pretty central to their strategy.
Okay.
What exactly is speech-to-meaning, and why is it such a big deal for SoundHound?
Well, speech-to-meaning is a step beyond simple speech recognition. It's about truly grasping the intent behind what someone is saying. Think of it this way. Traditional voice assistants can transcribe your words, but SoundHound's technology aims to go deeper, analyzing the context and meaning to give you more accurate and helpful responses.
So it's not just hearing words, it's actually listening to what you mean.
Right.
That deeper understanding opens up a lot of possibilities, right?
Precisely. Imagine ordering food, paying for gas, or even scheduling doctor's appointments using only your voice.
Wow.
This is the kind of future SoundHound is working towards, and their speech-to-meaning tech is the foundation.
And they're already making moves in that direction. They've processed over 100 million AI-powered calls for restaurants. And they're behind voice ordering at drive-thrus for brands like Panda Express and Church's Chicken.
Yeah.
That's not just futuristic. It's happening now.
Their customer list reads like a who's who of the restaurant world: Chipotle, Casey's, Applebee's.
Wow.
They're clearly hitting a sweet spot for businesses and consumers who want things to be faster and easier, but they're not content to just rule the restaurant scene.
Right.
Speaking of bold moves, let's talk about their acquisition of Amelia last August.
Now, that was a major play. Amelia was a leading enterprise AI company specializing in customer service solutions. This acquisition instantly catapulted SoundHound into new sectors like healthcare financing, insurance. We're talking global banks, Fortune 500 companies.
Yeah.
Their reach just exploded.
It was a power move, for sure, adding hundreds of big-name clients and positioning them as a serious contender in the enterprise AI market.
Yeah.
But the real test is integration. Can they successfully weave Amelia's strengths into their existing offerings?
Right.
And really capitalize on that expanded customer base?
That's the key question. It'll be interesting to see how it all unfunds. But from what we've seen so far, SoundHound isn't afraid to take risks and push boundaries.
One thing that really impressed me was their partnership with ASM Health.
Okay.
They're using AI agents to streamline patient appointment management. It's a perfect example of how SoundHound is applying their tech to real-world problems in a massive industry like healthcare.
That's a fantastic point. It shows they're not just about flashy consumer products. They're tackling critical needs in industries ripe for disruption. But of course, as investors, we always have to look at the bottom line.
Right, and that brings us back to the question of profitability.
Yeah.
SoundHound is aiming for positive adjusted EBITDA. That's earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization for those keeping score at home.
Okay.
At the end of 2025, it's a bold goal, especially with the integration costs of the Amelia acquisition and their ongoing investment in R&D.
Their revenue growth has been remarkable, though, almost 90% year over year in the third quarter, topping $25 million.
Yeah.
And importantly, they're not overly reliant on any single customer anymore. They've done a great job diversifying their revenue streams.
That diversification is crucial, especially after Nvidia's exit. It suggests they're building a sustainable business with a broad customer base.
So we've got a company with a strong foundation in voice AI, aggressive growth, and a vision for a voice-enabled future, but they're not without their challenges. What are some of the key risks investors should keep in mind when evaluating SoundHound?
Competition is definitely a factor. There are other players in the voice AI arena, each with their own strengths and weaknesses.
Like Cerence, for example, they're big in the automotive space, and they just snagged a partnership with Nvidia?
Exactly.
Wow.
So SoundHound needs to keep innovating and differentiating itself to stay ahead.
Right.
And as we discussed, achieving sustained profitability is crucial.
Then there's the question of dilution. They recently announced a new program to potentially sell more stock, which could help pay down debt and fund future growth.
Right.
But it also might decrease the value of existing shares. It's a lot to unpack, but that's what we're here for.
That's right.
To analyze all the angles and understand what makes a company like SoundHound tick.
For you, stock explorers, this is just the jumping off point. We've given you a framework for understanding SoundHound's story.
Yeah.
But the real exploration begins with your own research.
Dig into their financials, size up their competition, and think about the long-term potential of voice AI. Because the question isn't just whether SoundHound will succeed, it's how big that success might be.
And how will it reshape how we interact with technology in the future? That's worth pondering, isn't it? But for now, we're going to take a quick breather. When we come back, we'll dive deeper into SoundHound's financials, their path to profitability, and some of the strategic choices they're facing. Stuck with us. Welcome back, Stock Explorers. Before the break, we were talking about some of the big wins for SoundHound AI, their impressive growth, and the challenges they're up against. Now, let's dig into the numbers a bit.
All right, let's unpack this. Their revenue growth has been fantastic, no doubt. But as investors, we need to see a clear path to profitability. What's the outlook there?
Well, SoundHound has set a target for themselves, positive adjusted EBITDA by the end of 2025. They've been very transparent about that goal. But the real question is, can they hit that target without sacrificing growth?
Yeah, it's a tricky balancing act, right? They need to keep investing in research and development to stay ahead of the competition, but they also need to keep a close eye on costs and find ways to be more efficient.
Exactly. And the Amelia acquisition adds another layer of complexity. They're still integrating those two businesses, which comes with its own set of costs and challenges.
Right, and we can't forget about their recent equity program where they might sell more stock. It could help them pay down debt and fuel future growth, but it also carries the risk of dilution for existing shareholders.
Right, and here's where things get really interesting. SoundHound is essentially making a big bet on a future where voice becomes the main way we interact with technology. They're not just building products, they're building an entire ecosystem.
I see what you mean. We're already using voice commands for all sorts of things, from searching online to controlling our smart homes. SoundHound wants to take that to the next level, allowing us to seamlessly interact with businesses, services, and even our cars using only our voice.
And they're making strategic moves to put themselves right at the center of this voice-enabled world. Their partnerships are a key part of that strategy.
Speaking of partnerships, they've teamed up with some serious players. They're working with Nvidia, the graphics processing unit giant, to bring generative AI to devices, even those without internet access. That's a game changer, especially for things like in-car applications.
Absolutely, and let's not forget about their partnerships in the restaurant world. They're working with major point-of-sale providers like Square and Toast, integrating their voice AI directly into those systems. This gives them a direct line to a huge network of restaurants, which could really accelerate their growth in that sector.
So they're building the technology, they're locking in key partnerships, and they're targeting multiple high-growth markets. It does sound like a recipe for success, but are there any potential roadblocks that could throw them off course?
Well, one of the biggest challenges they face is the sheer speed of innovation in the AI space. Things are moving incredibly fast, which means SoundHound needs to be incredibly adaptable, constantly innovating to stay one step ahead.
It's like running a marathon on a treadmill that keeps speeding up.
Precisely, and they need to do all of this while managing costs and demonstrating a clear path to profitability. It's a tightrope walk.
And we can't forget about the competition. They're up against some big players with deep pockets and aggressive strategies of their own.
Cerence is a perfect example. They've been a major force in automotive voice AI for years, and as you mentioned earlier, they've recently strengthened their relationship with Nvidia.
That's right. So SoundHound can't afford to sit back and relax. They need to keep pushing the boundaries, finding new ways to stand out from the crowd and create value for both businesses and consumers.
One area where they have a potential advantage is their focus on that speech-to-meaning technology we were talking about earlier. It's not just about recognizing words, it's about understanding the intent behind those words.
Right, it's like the difference between a chatbot that gives you pre-programmed responses and a truly conversational AI that can understand nuance and context.
Exactly. And this capability could be especially valuable in complex fields like healthcare and finance, where understanding the subtleties of human communication is absolutely essential.
So what does this all mean for our listeners, the stock explorers out there? SoundHound is clearly a company with a lot of potential, but they're also navigating a pretty complex landscape.
Their success hinges on their ability to execute their ambitious plans, maneuver through a competitive market, and convince investors that their vision for a voice-enabled future is worth betting on.
They have the technology, the talent, and the drive. Now it's all about putting those pieces together and proving they can turn their innovative ideas into a sustainable, profitable business.
And for those of you following along, here's something to think about. Imagine a world where you can control every device, every service, basically every aspect of your digital life using just your voice. SoundHound is building toward that reality. Are you ready for it?
We're back for the final part of our deep dive into SoundHound AI stock explorers.
We've covered a lot of ground, from their groundbreaking tech and impressive growth to the competitive landscape and those make-or-break financial considerations.
Now let's zero in on one specific event that could be a turning point for SoundHound.
Okay.
Their presence at CES 2025.
CES is like the Super Bowl for consumer electronics. And SoundHound went all out. It was a chance for them to show off their latest and greatest and really drive home their vision for a voice-first future.
They were showcasing everything from their advances in automotive tech to what they're calling the voice commerce ecosystem of the future.
Right.
It sounds ambitious, to say the least.
Imagine a world where you can order food buy tickets for a showbook appointments, all using just your voice and across all your devices. That's the world SoundHound is working to create.
It does sound like something out of a sci-fi movie, but they're not just dreaming it up. They're taking concrete steps to make it a reality.
Their partnership with Nvidia to bring generative AI to devices even without an internet connection was a major highlight at CES.
Right.
That's a game changer, especially for the automotive industry.
I can see why you could have a fully functional AI assistant in your car, even in remote areas with spotty service. The possibilities are pretty mind-blowing, from personalized entertainment and navigation to hands-free access to your car's manual and even voice-controlled shopping.
And that's not all. Remember, SoundHound's focus on building that voice commerce ecosystem. They're betting big on a future where we use our voices to buy just about anything from groceries to concert tickets directly from our cars, TVs, or even our smart speakers.
It's a bold vision, but they're putting their money where their mouth is. Their recent acquisition of Allset, a food ordering platform, was a strategic move in this direction, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It lets them bake voice ordering and payment capabilities directly into their platform, making the experience smoother and more convenient for consumers. And think about the potential revenue streams if voice commerce really takes off. Like, they're predicting they'd be in a prime position to grab a significant share of that market.
It's a high-risk, high-reward strategy, but SoundHound seems ready to roll the dice.
And that's what makes following a company like this so exciting. We get to witness the potential birth of a whole new industry, the rise of a potential game changer, but we always have to balance our excitement with a healthy dose of caution.
Right. Investors should definitely do their homework and weigh the risks and challenges SoundHound faces. We've talked about competition and concerns about profitability, as well as integration costs and the potential for dilution. These are all things to consider carefully before making any decisions.
It's all about doing your own research, digging into their financials, and understanding their position in the competitive landscape. Ultimately, SoundHound's success hinges on their ability to deliver on their ambitious promises, execute their strategy effectively, and convince the market that their vision for a voice-enabled future is worth believing in.
Well said. For those of you who've joined us on this deep dive, here's a final thought to ponder as we rely more and more on technology. How do we interact with it? Will it be through screens, keyboards, or the most natural interface we have, our voices?
SoundHound is putting their faith in the power of voice, will you?
That's all the time we have for today. Stock Explorers, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into SoundHound AI. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more in-depth explorations of the company shaping our future. Until next time.